California's sun burned into my shoulders, and the air carried the tang of salt water, the sweet scent of sunscreen, and the distant laughter of beachgoers. A gentle tune played near the infinity pool, something light and tropical, with a pop beat underneath. This was not the kind of resort you stumble upon by accident. 5-star luxury, a seafood buffet, waiters dressed in crisp white uniforms, and pristine cleanliness. A place where you escape not only the daily grind, but yourself. I'd been lounging by the pool for days, sipping cold craft beer and worrying about nothing except not getting sunburned before I had to fly home. It was somewhere between my third and fourth pint when I noticed them by the edge of the water. She was blonde, maybe 35, possibly older. Tall, with a well-maintained figure. Clearly someone who took care of herself. Her face had soft features, very all-American, slightly weary but glowing with happiness. He was lean and tanned, with a short beard and dark sunglasses. His eyes, though obscured, seemed intense. When he looked at her, there was so much tenderness that, even as a lifelong cynic, I felt a pang somewhere inside. They laughed, splashed in the water, and talked in a mix of accented English and something else I couldn't place. She kissed his cheek. He held her by the waist. At some point, I found myself close enough to strike up a conversation, because that's what happens on vacations. "Are you two together?" I asked, without malice or ulterior motives, just out of curiosity. She laughed. "Yes," she said. "We meet here every year, 6 years in a row now." He nodded, adding with an accent, "She is my love, only one, my beloved." I raised an eyebrow and smiled. California's sun, summer, romance, it all fit into a story as cliched as it was warm. "Where do you live?" I asked. "I'm from Michigan," she said. "He lives here in San Diego. He works at the marina, sometimes does boat tours. And me, I don't work? You don't work? Then who pays for all this?" I gestured around at the lavish resort. "It's not cheap, you know?" She looked at me calmly, almost defiantly. "My husband, your husband?" I nearly choked on my beer. "So you're married?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I have a son. He's 11. My husband is a good man, hardworking, supportive. We've been together a long time. But," she glanced at the man next to her, "I love him. My Turk." He smiled at her but didn't follow every word. She leaned in and kissed him briefly. I was stunned. A husband, a son, and annual trips to another man across the country? Not for a day or two, but for a whole week, every year for 6 years straight? "Does he know?" I asked finally. "My husband?" She smirked. "No, of course not. He thinks I'm on a girls' trip. Says I deserve it." The Turk watched her with such adoration that it felt as if the world around him disappeared whenever she was near. He couldn't catch all of our conversation, but he understood enough from her tone. He took her hand and pressed it against his chest. She kissed him on the lips. I stepped away, not out of morality, but because the air felt tight, claustrophobic. Not from judgment, but from the sheer weight of it all. Somewhere in Michigan, there's a man who has no idea his wife flies off to San Diego each year to be with someone else. He might be at home making breakfast for their son, completely oblivious that his wife is wrapped in another man's arms by a pool on the Pacific coast. And there I was, sitting by the pool, listening to someone say "I love you" with a thick accent, and realizing the world isn't black and white. It's painted in shades of loyalty, lust, lies, self-deception, and the aching desire to feel alive. Because in her eyes, there was no cruelty, no malice, only longing for something she didn't have at home. I went back to my chair, poured myself another beer, and stretched out under the sun. But one thought wouldn't leave my mind. If your wife, Susan, takes annual girls' trips to San Diego, buddy, you're a fool.
Mornings always start the same. Cinnamon coffee in a travel mug, a half-awake drive on autopilot, out of the driveway, onto the loop, into the downtown parking garage. Lights on in the office, a few clicks, and the screen fills with spreadsheets, emails to DOS. I'm 38, old enough to not chase approval, young enough to still feel every heartbeat. Middle management, not an executive, but not some guy fetching coffee either. My team respects me, my boss leaves me be. I look the part, Pressed shirt, clean haircut, polished shoes, a quiet wristwatch. I know how to listen without interrupting, how to crack the right joke at the right time. I don't preach. I don't overshare. I'm married. Not perfectly, but married. 15 years now. My wife. She's like that old playlist you keep in your car. You know every note, every lyric, even the ones that annoy you. There are things that still make me respect her. There are things that drive me crazy. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's distant. Sometimes we don't speak for a day, then argue, then suddenly laugh at something dumb in the kitchen. That's marriage. Real marriage. No Instagram gloss, just two people with a shared world, kids, a home, a past. You don't just drag and drop that into the trash. And in this world, there's me, a guy who hears people whisper behind his back, "You, still faithful? Why? You're a good-looking guy, successful. What's the deal?" They say I could have a line out the door. Women smile, flirt, sometimes linger in conversation a little too long, but no one ever crosses the line, and I don't invite them to. One of the women in my department is Rachel. She's 30, sharp, heels every day, always has a comment that makes the room laugh. The office lights up around her. Sometimes she jokes with a twist. Sometimes she bends just a little lower for a folder. If I were 25, I probably would have fallen. Now, I just smile back. The other day she said, "You're always so decent. Guys like you don't exist." I shrugged. They do. You're just not looking in the right places. My coworker Kevin has that permanent smirk. Come on, man. Every guy's got issues at home. You fix that stuff on the side. That's how it works. He doesn't know I've got issues too. Evenings where my wife and I sit across from each other and the kitchen table feels like the Atlantic Ocean, where everything about me seems to irritate her. The way I chew, the way I scroll, the way I breathe. And her? She drives me up the wall with the way she clicks the remote, the way she says figures under her breath, the way her eyes roll like it's a tick. But I don't leave. I don't go looking for a second act for my soul. You know why? Because cheating isn't about sex. It's about betrayal. It's knowing you're walking out the door planning to lie. It's the moment your gaze changes, when your thoughts are no longer where they should be. One night becomes a snowball, and suddenly you're standing in the hallway, eyes to the floor, saying, "I didn't mean to. I don't know how it happened." But I know. You always know. It's easy to blame the other person when a marriage starts unraveling. She's cold. She's tired. She doesn't notice me. She doesn't inspire me. But let's be honest, I'm no saint either. I'm not always kind, not always patient, not always the first to say sorry. I've got my flaws. I just believe that if you said I'm in, then stay in, or leave like a man. But sneaking around? That's not about passion, that's about weakness. Tonight we're at the kitchen table. Her eyes look heavy. I sip tea. The TV mumbles in the background, no one really watching. "You stayed late again?" she asks. "Work?" She nods. Then quietly, "Are we okay?" I pause, weigh my words. I don't want to lie. It's not always easy. But I'm here. On purpose. She doesn't say thank you, just looks at me, then stands, goes to the cabinet, and brings out those chocolate chip cookies I like. The ones she only buys when she remembers. We eat in silence. But it's something. It's still something. Sometimes people say, "You just haven't met the right temptation yet." Maybe. Or maybe I've just learned to say no to myself before I start saying yes to trouble. And if you're reading this, looking for a way to justify your own affair, don't blame it on her, or him, or life. That's all you. When you want out, you look for excuses. When you want to stay, you look for ways. I'm just here, living. No drama, no side stories. And somehow that quiet loyalty feels like strength, maybe even love.
Looks like I've officially joined the Broken Hearts Club. Funny thing is, my heart isn't broken. It doesn't ache, doesn't sting, doesn't twist itself into knots begging to go back or be forgiven. It's just empty, like someone turned off the lights and forgot to turn them back on. And I can't figure out if I'm still in shock, and the pain is coming later, or if everything had already died a long time ago, and I just didn't know it. It all started at the end of January. My husband, my rock, my one true love, my everything, was going on a business trip. He sighed dramatically as he packed, saying how much he hated being sent off to who knows where again, how hard it was to leave me alone. I almost found it sweet. We'd been together for 5 years, and I thought what we had was real. Love, trust, shared routines, movie nights, breakfasts together, laughter in bed. All of it. I baked him some of his favorite muffins, blueberry, just the way he liked. Packed them neatly in a container, kissed him goodbye, waved as the taxi drove off, and headed back inside. Saturday morning. I figured I'd get a little more sleep and then take care of some small errands. I woke up closer to noon, brewed some hot cocoa, and sat by the window scrolling through my feed. And that's when it hit me. The first boom, his face, smiling, happy, relaxed, sitting in front of a fireplace. The caption read, "Finally got away for a cozy weekend with my love." The account belonged to my friend, my close friend, the one I had coffee with on weekends, the one I helped pick out makeup, the one who shared memes with me about husbands will never get it, but we do. I stared at the screen, read it again, looked closer at the photo. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a coincidence. That was my husband, and that was my friend. And that caption, it wasn't an accident. And the photo, definitely not spontaneous. I sat there, staring, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't hurting. I didn't cry. My hands didn't shake. I didn't call him in a fit of rage or feel crushed by betrayal. I just sat there, thinking, seriously? This is who I married? It wasn't even the cheating that got to me. It was how stupidly he handled it. Why would you let her post that picture? You knew I followed her. You knew I'd see it. Or did you not? Did you just not think? How does that even happen? He texted me every night from his business trip. I miss you so much. It's awful here. The hotel food is terrible. Meanwhile, her stories showed dinners by a snowy forest, ice skating dates, coffee on a charming porch, romantic walks under twinkling lights. Cozy, sweet, dreamy, just not with me. I replied with one-word answers. Okay, sure, that's it. I couldn't pretend I didn't know, but I didn't want to argue either. It felt like all my anger, all my feelings had just vanished. When he came back, he acted as if everything was normal, complained about the train ride, said how exhausted he was, kissed me on the cheek, hugged me, dropped his bag in the hallway. I looked at him and saw nothing familiar, just an empty, clumsy performance. I was making eggs in the kitchen thinking, you don't even realize I know. You can't even tell me the truth. Why are you here? Who are you even anymore? A few days later, he brought his mom over, probably hoping for backup. She's sweet, kind, always polite. We never had any issues before. The three of us sat in the kitchen. Wine, snacks, a quiet evening. His mom sighed. What's going on, dear? He says he doesn't recognize you anymore. You were so bright and happy, but now, you're so cold. I put my fork down, looked her straight in the eyes, and said calmly, your son cheated on me, with my friend. And not just cheated, he let her post it online for everyone to see, through her account, and I just sat there, looking at it, unable to believe that the man I loved could be this stupid. She gasped, of course. He started stammering. It's not what you think. It was a misunderstanding. She set me up. I sighed. You can't even lie properly. Why her? Why so openly? Or did you just not care? He stayed silent, and I didn't want anything anymore. No fights, no long talks, no dramatic breakup scenes. I already knew it was over. Inside, it was just empty. A week later, I packed my things and moved out, found an apartment. On Valentine's Day, I bought myself a kitten, a fluffy orange one with big, curious eyes. I named him Theodore. He still calls. His mom does too. My family is in a frenzy. Even my friend, for some reason, messaged me, claiming it was all a mistake. Everyone's saying, save your marriage, think it through, don't destroy your family. But I didn't destroy anything. It was already destroyed without me. I just walked out of the room where the fire had been burning for who knows how long. And now everyone's looking at me like I'm the one to blame. And you know what's strange? I feel fine, peaceful, for the first time in a long time. I just don't love him anymore. I don't believe him. and I don't feel like explaining myself to anyone. And yes, I'm sharing this anonymously because I don't want to discuss it, don't want judgment. I just needed to say it out loud, even if it's only into the void or the quiet.
I never knew how the end of a family begins. I used to think it came with shouting, slamming doors, tears, someone packing a suitcase. But sometimes it's just one random touch, a stranger's hand, someone else's words, a joke meant to be funny that shatters everything. It happened yesterday in Portland, just outside the Riverside Mall. My wife and I were walking from the parking lot, keeping a careful distance. Things between us were fragile, like porcelain. You don't throw it out, but you know one wrong move and it cracks. We just come through a rough patch. My fault, I won't deny it. There were lies, a broken trust, a long road of never again and almost getting to I forgive you. We were barely breathing the same air again, not close but not broken. And then, this. A young woman passed by, maybe 20, blonde, light jacket. As she walked by, she ran her hand across my lower back, far too familiar for a stranger. I turned, confused, and she leaned in just enough and said softly but loud enough for my wife to hear, "Good to see you. I get it. Tomorrow, same time." Then she walked off, like nothing had happened. I froze. My mind went blank. My wife gripped her purse tighter. "What the hell was that?" she asked. I started stammering, said I didn't know her, said it was probably a prank. "A prank? Are you serious?" Her eyes were filled with a pain that doesn't lead to questions, it just breaks. A few feet away, I noticed two guys. One held a phone, the other an action cam, laughing, whispering, occasionally glancing our way. That's when I realized it wasn't random. It was staged, a prank, a so-called social experiment, a video for strangers to laugh at online. But for us, it was devastation. At home, it blew up. The kind of argument where no one yells but everything is said. I swore it wasn't me, promised to prove it, told her I'd find the video, show her, "Look, see, it's not real, it's them, not me." But she didn't believe me. And maybe it wasn't about belief anymore. Maybe she just couldn't carry it anymore. She left, took our daughter, went to her sister's. I was alone. All night I searched. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, even Reddit threads and random Facebook groups. I searched by hashtags, by location, typed every combination I could think of. Nothing, not a single clip, no trace. And then I understood, without that video, I'm no one, just another guy making excuses. Meanwhile, those two with the cameras, they're probably editing my life falling apart, adding music and laugh tracks for likes and comments. I'm not writing this for sympathy or shares. I'm not a hero. I've made my own messes. But this wasn't one of them. This was someone else's joke, played in the worst possible moment, with the worst possible people. If only they knew how fragile we were. If only they realized a child now has two homes instead of one. That I might never sleep beside my wife again, all for a few laughs online. So to whoever filmed that, if you're reading this, if you still have any shred of conscience left, please, post the video. Or send it to me. Give me a chance to defend the truth. You wanted views? You'll get them. Just give me the one thing I need, a way to show her that this wasn't mine to carry. Because right now, with nothing to show, I'm the liar again. And maybe this time, for good. And to anyone who thinks pranks are just harmless fun, sometimes behind your laughter, there's a life falling apart.
I was 48 and thought I had built a quiet, good life for myself. 2 grown kids, both done with high school and living on their own. A small 2-bedroom townhouse in Portland with ivy crawling up the fence, lavender by the porch, and a kitchen that always smelled faintly of cinnamon and coffee. And there was Mark, my husband. We'd been married almost 30 years. Every morning I woke up before sunrise, brewed coffee in the old Mr. Coffee machine, packed Mark's lunch, turkey sandwiches with cheddar and an apple, and sent him off to work with a kiss on his cheek. Then I'd make oatmeal for myself, feed my cat, Milo, and sit by the window to read the news while the city slowly woke up. That January, he went on a ski trip to Mount Hood with some old college buddies. I folded his thermal shirts neatly, packed wool socks and the knit hat I'd made him back when we were first married. He kissed me quickly at the door. "See you Sunday, Lisa. Don't work too hard," he said, flashing that boyish grin. That weekend was rainy and gray. I lit candles, binge-watched old black and white movies, and baked blueberry muffins for when he returned. Saturday night he texted, "All good here. Beer and skiing. Miss you." I smiled, sending him a picture of Milo curled up in my lap. But when he came back Sunday night, he seemed different. He barely spoke, avoided my eyes. Slept in the guest room. All week he was distant. Came home late smelling like cigarettes and a woman's perfume I didn't recognize. Finally, I asked, "Mark, is everything okay?" "Yeah, fine," he said curtly, staring at the TV. Then one evening he turned it off, took a deep breath, and looked at me with tired, sad eyes. "Lisa, we need to talk." My heart sank. I waited. "I met someone on the trip. She's younger, fun, makes me feel alive again. You're a good wife, really. We've had a lot together. But I need something else now. I'm sorry." He talked for what felt like hours, about how exciting she was, how she made him feel 25 again. His words fell like heavy rain on a cold tin roof, relentless, chilling, loud. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He moved out a week later, taking only a suitcase and his old guitar. I watched him leave from the living room window, feeling numb, like my entire body had fallen asleep and couldn't wake up. Days passed in a fog. I barely ate. Coffee in the morning, maybe some crackers by night. I caught my reflection one afternoon. Hollow eyes, tangled hair in a messy bun, an oversized sweater hanging off my shoulders. At work, my colleagues at the clinic asked, "You okay, Lisa?" "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied with the same empty smile. Then came the day I had to look at apartments. We were splitting the money from the house sale. I walked into a small studio in downtown Portland, unshowered, no makeup, hair pulled back under a knit beanie. The real estate agent, a young woman named Brooke with a sleek ponytail and stylish boots, looked me up and down gently. "Divorce?" she asked softly. I nodded, and before I knew it, I was sobbing uncontrollably on her faux leather office chair. I hadn't cried like that in months. She handed me a tissue, waited for me to catch my breath, and said, "You're stronger than you think, Lisa." Afterwards, she took me for coffee at a tiny cafe that smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon rolls. She told me about her own life, her heartbreaks, her dreams. For the first time in almost a year, I felt something lift inside me. Weeks passed. I bought the studio apartment, painted the walls a warm sage green, hung up white linen curtains, bought myself a new pair of sneakers, ordered a second-hand bike from Craigslist, something I'd always wanted but never let myself buy. I wrote out a list in a spiral notebook, things I'd always wanted to do but never did. Take a pottery class, drive the Pacific Coast Highway alone, learn to make sourdough bread, join a book club. December came. One chilly evening, someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Mark standing there, holding a cheap bouquet of gas station roses and a box of Whitman's chocolates. "Lisa, I made a mistake. She's too much for me. I miss the quiet life with you. Can I come home?" I looked at him for a long moment, his shoulders slumped, his hair thinner than I remembered. Once my heart would have jumped at seeing him again, but now I felt nothing. "No, Mark, you made your choice, and I'm happy now." He nodded, eyes glistening, and turned away. Later, my sister called. "Lisa, family is sacred. Maybe you should forgive him." But I knew the truth. Family isn't just names on a marriage certificate. Family is where love lives, where your heart feels safe. Now, I wake up alone every morning, brew my coffee, watched the sunrise over the city from my window, Milo purring beside me. My kids visit on weekends. I read novels late into the night, take long walks along the river, bake bread that fills my apartment with the smell of home. I am Lisa, and I've finally found myself again.
It happened more than a decade ago, during a time when the sunlight had a nostalgic warmth. I was sitting on the floor of my small New York apartment, wrapped in a blanket, a cup of tea in hand, and a storm of thoughts in my head. I had just gone through a rough day work, stress, rain, and that familiar loneliness. Then he showed up. Ryan, my longtime friend. No call, no text, just knocked on my door with 2 spoons and a tub of Ben & Jerry's. Like old times. His voice had that calming steadiness I always needed. Things happened naturally. We started spending more time together, coffee runs, long walks in Central Park, talking about books, dreams, the absurdity of adulthood. And eventually, we crossed the line. At first, it felt harmless. Then it felt too good. The chemistry between us was undeniable, physical and emotional. But some things didn't quite fit. He never stayed the night. He never met my friends. Holidays were always complicated. My gut whispered things my heart didn't want to hear. Sometimes, he'd vanish for days. My texts would go unanswered. Calls would drop with a, "Hang on, I've got another call," and that would be it. But he always had reasons, logical ones. I wanted to believe him, so I did. Once, I mentioned bumping into an ex. Ryan froze. Then he said, "I don't want to share you." I took it as romantic at the time. Looking back, it felt possessive, a warning I didn't see. We talked about the future, kids, a townhouse with a yellow door. He called me the future astronaut mum, and I laughed like it was possible. I believed him. Then came my dream trip, 3 weeks through Italy and Greece. I sent him photos. We messaged every day. "Wish you were here," he wrote. "Stay safe," I replied. When I got back, we met. Everything felt familiar and warm. Then, 2 weeks, later silence. No messages, no replies. Finally, I called. My voice cracked as I asked, "What's going on?" His was calm, distant. "I'm going to be a father." He admitted he had been seeing 2 other women. One of them, Claire, was pregnant. "I didn't plan any of this," he said, "but it's the right thing to do." I didn't cry. I said, "Okay, take care," and hung up. We met once after that, about 6 months later, at a neutral cafe. He looked tired, worn out, talked about diapers and sleepless nights. I smiled politely, like he was a distant memory. Since then, life moved on. I've loved, I've lost. But with Ryan, something deeper ended my ability to trust completely. I think about those days often, not with pain but with a kind of faded sweetness, like an old song you know by heart, out of tune but honest. He was my friend, my lover, my mistake. But he was also my spring, and even if it was, short-lived it bloomed.
I used to think infidelity was something that happened to other people. The weak ones, the irresponsible, those who had long stopped caring, people who didn't value their families. Not us, not me and Hannah. Things weren't perfect, no, but we were honest. We'd built something real over the years, raised 3 kids together. I believed that our slightly worn out but sturdy life was built on trust. I met Hannah in college. She studied literature. I was in mechanical engineering. We were a strange match, but it worked. We moved in fast, married even faster, and before we knew it, Noah was born. I was 23, she was 22. He came into this world frail, spending his first month in intensive care. For the next 2 years, we were in and out of hospitals. Hannah was his world. I took extra shifts, night jobs, anything to cover the bills. Then came the twins, Emily and Grace. It felt like everything was settling. No big dreams or beach house fantasies. Just an old Toyota I kept trying to fix, family movie nights, and the sound of the girls giggling in the living room. That was happiness to me. When Hannah told me she was pregnant with our fourth, I didn't flinch. I even smiled. It wasn't planned, sure, but I thought, we'll make it work, just like we always do. The baby was a boy. We named him Caleb. But right away, something felt off. Darker skin, deep brown eyes, a slightly almond shape to his lids. Not like me, not like Hannah. I joked, maybe he got it from my great-grandfather. There's a rumor he had Turkish roots. Hannah laughed too, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Months passed. Caleb grew. He laughed, babbled, crawled into our hearts. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling, as though a stranger had found a place in our home. I hated myself for it. I didn't tell anyone. Not even myself, not really. Until one night I stood over his crib watching him sleep, and this thought crept in. What if he's not mine? No, that's insane. Still, I got a DNA test. Quietly, anonymously. Then lived the next 2 weeks like a ghost. Fixing pipes, grocery runs, homework with the girls. Pretending everything was normal while something sharp scraped at my insides. The results came by email. I opened the file, confused at first by all the charts, markers, percentages. Then my eyes locked on a bold line. Probability of biological relationship, 0%. I stared, frozen. Then I laughed, a dry, cracked sound. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room, scream. But I didn't. I just sat there, in silence. For hours, maybe. I don't remember. That evening I confronted Hannah. The kids were asleep. I showed her the results. She didn't cry, didn't shout. She went pale, lips trembling, and said, I don't know how it happened. I'm sorry. Sorry. For what, stabbing me in the back? Feeding me lies? Letting me raise another man's child as my own? I waited for her to deny it, to name someone, to say it was a mistake, just one time. But nothing. Just that small, broken, I'm sorry. I didn't sleep that night. Just chain smoked in the kitchen, watching a candle flicker beneath the family photo. In the morning, I drove to the garage and stayed there. Should I leave? Kick her out? But what about the kids? About Caleb? How do you tell a child you're not his father? I came home that evening. The kids didn't notice anything. Emily showed me a drawing, our family. Me, Hannah, the kids, Caleb included. At the top she'd written, My family is my fortress. I almost wept. 2 weeks passed. I slept on the couch, talked to the kids, made dinner, did pickups and drop-offs. But Hannah and I, nothing. She didn't try to explain, didn't ask for forgiveness, just waited, like she knew it wasn't hers to ask. One evening, coming home from work, I saw a man leaving our building. He glanced at the apartment numbers. Normally I wouldn't have cared, but then Hannah ran out after him, her face panicked. The man muttered something, walked away. She stared after him like she was afraid he wouldn't come back. When she saw me standing there, she froze, pale again. I said nothing, just walked past. Later that night, she came to the kitchen, sat across from me, hands shaking. That was him, Caleb's real father. I wasn't even surprised, just stared into the table. She told me it happened 2 years ago, when I was away working on a contract upstate. Her mother was hospitalized. I barely called. Work was crazy. He was a friend from college. Showed up, offered help, stayed around. One thing led to another. Once, maybe more. She wasn't sure. I filed for divorce. No yelling, no drama. Just papers. Hannah didn't fight it. I packed a few things and moved out. The kids stayed with her for now. I still saw them every day. Even Caleb. He ran up to me, called me Dad, and I couldn't bring myself to correct him. A month later, my father called. He didn't know what had happened. Asked how I was. I told him, divorced. There was silence. Then, because of her, I said yes. He sighed like he already knew, then added, "You did what you had to. But remember, being a father isn't just blood, it's heart. Caleb's still a kid. He didn't choose any of this." A few more months passed. Then came a letter. Hannah filed for child support for all 4 kids, including Caleb. I went to court. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, read through the documents. I handed her the DNA results. She paused. "But he's legally your son." I was deceived, I said. I filed to contest paternity. Another round of bureaucracy. Psychologists. Evaluations. Meanwhile, Caleb got sick. Breathing issues. I visited him in the hospital. He was on 4th when he saw me. He cried and reached out. For the first time in months, I hugged him. Hannah stood in the corner, silent, hollow, like someone who'd aged a decade in a season. I didn't know what to feel. How do you erase a child you raised? 6 months passed. I rented a small apartment near the kids' school. Saw them almost daily, Caleb too. The court eventually ruled I wasn't liable for Caleb's support, but I could still visit, my request. Hannah moved in with her parents. We rarely spoke. The kids still saw her. I tried not to hate her. But forgiveness, I'm not there yet. You know, when a family falls apart, it feels like the world is ending. But then through the ashes and pain, you see, life goes on. Kids grow. The sun still rises. And even among the ruins, you can build something new. Not a castle, maybe, but a shelter, and a heart that still has room for warmth.